Everyone always thought he would remain in the background, quietly standing by Princess Anne's side without a single complaint. For years, Sir Timothy Laurence has been known as a symbol of devotion and discretion within the royal family. But now, a shocking revelation from the man himself, the loyal husband of Princess Anne, has stunned the royal circle. No one saw this coming. And you might be surprised too. Can you guess what's about to be revealed? If you can comment. 1. If not comment, 0 below. Don't forget to share your thoughts, hit follow, and join us as we uncover the untold secrets of the British royal family. For years, he quietly observed all the power struggles and behind-the-scenes rivalries unfolding behind the palace doors. But only recently, he broke his silence and revealed a dark secret about Queen Camilla, a truth that could completely change the public's perception of her. So what is that secret? Why did it take so many years to come to light? And how deeply will this revelation shake the royal family's already fragile relationships? This is a layered and complex story between two royal women. Imagine two women living within the same royal family yet completely different in personality and behavior. This is the portrait of Princess Anne and Queen Camilla, two women who have never shared a close or warm relationship. Their connection isn't bound by affection, but by years of simmering tension, wary glances, and an unspoken rivalry that has never truly ended. The rift between them didn't begin suddenly. It has been smoldering for decades, tracing back to a tangled romance in the 1970s. At the time, Princess Anne was deeply involved in a romantic relationship with Andrew Parker Bowles, the man who would later become Camilla's husband. Although the two couldn't marry due to Andrew being Catholic, a faith that conflicted with royal protocol at the time, their relationship was believed to be genuinely heartfelt. In 1973, Andrew and Camilla reunited and got married. From that point on, Anne was visibly uncomfortable with Camilla's presence. The woman who had married the man Anne once deeply loved, frequently appearing at events in Buckingham Palace. But things didn't stop there. Nearly 3 decades later, Camilla went on to marry Prince Charles, Anne's younger brother. This overlapping relationship made it impossible for Anne to truly accept Camilla's presence within the royal family. According to those close to the palace, Camilla often felt pressured and overshadowed by Princess Anne's strong-willed and determined personality. For years, Camilla tried to keep her distance, even avoiding contact with her sister-in-law. However, tensions reached a boiling point during King Charles's coronation. At that time, Camilla expressed her desire to be called Queen rather than the traditional title of Queen Consort. This deeply angered Princess Anne. She firmly asserted that Camilla was not a queen in the true sense and should only be addressed by the correct title of Queen Consort. The conflict escalated, and although both always maintained a polite demeanor in public, anyone could sense the chilling tension between them that was impossible to hide. Many years after her relationship with Andrew ended, Princess Anne found happiness with Sir Timothy Laurence, a former Royal Navy Vice Admiral known for his calm demeanor discipline and avoidance of the media spotlight. They married in 1992 in a simple yet dignified ceremony. It was Sir Timothy, quietly supporting his wife behind the scenes, who held one of the royal family's biggest secrets. Having served the nation for many years and possessing a clear-eyed view of what happens behind the royal family's glamorous facade, he discovered something no one else dared to speak about. This secret not only shook the royal family's inner circle, but also had the potential to undermine the public image that people had long trusted about Queen Camilla. Since joining the royal family, Sir Timothy Lawrence's role as Princess Anne's husband has always been clear, quietly protecting and supporting his wife, serving the monarchy and steering clear of any scandal or power struggles within the palace. He is a man of disciplined responsibility and never lets emotions dictate his actions. However, by 2025, Timothy realized he could no longer stay out of the situation. What he witnessed within the royal family, especially from Queen Camilla, could no longer be ignored. At first, Timothy thought Princess Anne's criticisms of Camilla were simply due to his wife's naturally strong-willed and tough personality. But over time, he began to see that something was wrong. Camilla wasn't just someone who annoyed others. She seemed to act with calculated intent, carefully taking each step as if climbing a preordained ladder of power. When piecing together the events of the past, Timothy began to see how suspiciously everything fit into place. Camilla's affair with Prince Charles years ago not only shattered his marriage to Princess Diana, but also triggered a series of serious consequences, from the highly publicized divorce to Diana's heartbreaking tragedy. While the public may have varied perspectives for Princess Anne, who always places honor, duty, and family above all else, what Camilla did was unforgivable. According to Andrew Parker Bowles, Camilla's former husband, he confided in Timothy that Camilla had once neglected her own children to focus on inserting herself into the relationship between Charles and Diana. For Anne, this only reinforced her belief that Camilla was never truly fit to represent the core values of the royal family. But what's happening now is what truly worries Timothy. In recent years, as King Charles's health began to show signs of decline, Timothy has noticed a clear shift in Camilla's attitude and behavior. She no longer plays the role of the steady support she once claimed to be. In contrast, during royal meetings, internal events, and even family dinners, Camilla began speaking on Charles's behalf, offering opinions and steering discussions. For Timothy, who served in the military as a Royal Navy Vice Admiral, he clearly sensed a change in her demeanor. From a supportive wife, Camilla was positioning herself as a leader, as if preparing for the role of a true queen, going beyond the traditional boundaries of a queen consort. Especially Timothy noticed that Camilla began intervening in sensitive matters, like the Regency Act and succession plans. What's notable is that Camilla didn't just offer opinions, she issued directives and unsolicited advice, particularly to Prince William and Princess Kate. According to Timothy, these lessons sometimes crossed the line, making Kate feel pressured and fueling even more anger in Anne. What do you think about Camilla's interference? Do you feel her actions have gone too far? If yes, leave a 2 in the comments. If no, comment. 5. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to support the channel, giving me more motivation to bring you deeper insights in upcoming videos. However, what hurt Timothy and Princess Anne the most was how Camilla began managing King Charles's time. Under the pretext of protecting the king's health and peace of mind, Camilla increasingly limited his interactions with family, especially with Anne. On more than one occasion, Princess Anne returned home disappointed after last-minute cancellations of private meetings with her brother, moments she always cherished which Camilla skillfully blocked. For Anne, this wasn't just an inconvenience. It felt like a deliberate sidelining of family ties, eroding the trust between close relatives. Even the small family gatherings at Clarence House events that should have simply been moments to strengthen sibling bonds began to shrink. Strangely, Princess Anne was often left off the guest list. For someone who always puts family first, this was no small matter. What worried Sir Timothy Laurence the most wasn't just the outward distance, but something deeper, a form of hidden power quietly spreading like a cold mist over the royal family. Timothy noticed how Camilla used words like a sweet yet corrosive weapon. She would gently say to King Charles, "Anne is just busy with horses and charities. She doesn't understand the real pressures of leadership like we do." In front of others, she appeared humble, but behind their backs, she skillfully sowed seeds of doubt. To the courtiers, Camilla expressed concerns that Prince William was too modern words that seemed harmless, but acted like a silent dagger cutting into the image of the heir to the throne. Timothy clearly understood the meaning behind these words. They were not simply personal remarks. This was a plan, a series of deliberately leaked statements designed to undermine the credibility of those around, so that Camilla could gradually establish herself as the only reliable pillar beside the king. The media campaign and the loaded silence. Then the media began to uniformly change their tone. Suddenly, headlines flooded the press like Camilla, the woman who holds the throne steady, the steady leadership of Queen Camilla. Meanwhile, there was almost no mention of Princess Anne's decades of service or the increasingly prominent roles of William and Kate in carrying the future of the royal family. For Timothy, everything was crystal clear. This was no coincidence. It was a systematically orchestrated campaign, a sophisticated strategy to place Camilla at the center, not only in the king's heart, but also in the eyes of the public. The atmosphere at the 2025 Royal Ascot Horse Racing Festival was as lively as ever, carriages, wide-brimmed hats, the cheers of the crowd. But behind the dazzling lights lay a cold truth. King Charles sat quietly, his face pale, breath weak, exhaustion clearly etched on his features. And then, in a seemingly ordinary moment, Timothy stood near Camilla and accidentally overheard her whispering to her private advisor, "This throne must forever remain in my hands, no matter what happens to Charles." The words stunned Timothy into silence. A chill ran down his spine, colder than any storm he had ever faced at sea. For the first time, he no longer saw Camilla as just a difficult sister-in-law, but as a real threat to the throne and to the royal family itself. After that moment, Timothy began to take action. He searched for answers, and what he discovered shocked him. It was not just a careless remark. It was the culmination of a plan years in the making, a double-edged conspiracy to keep Charles alive, but not strong enough to stand in Camilla's way. Since King Charles began cancer treatment, his health has rapidly declined. The public believed it to be the natural consequence of the disease, but according to a shocking source Timothy accessed, Camilla had influenced the king's personal doctor to intentionally reduce the chemotherapy dosage. Not enough to cause Charles's death, but just enough to weaken him, gradually stripping him of his ability to govern the country, forcing him to rely entirely on his wife. The recorded words sent chills down people's spines. "Keep him alive for the cameras, but weak for me. If he slips up, I will destroy his career and his family." No longer the image of a devoted wife, this was a woman willing to go to any lengths to hold on to power. But it didn't stop there. Camilla was also rumored to have manipulated Charles while he was physically and mentally weak to force him to sign a secret power of attorney document. On the surface, these were just ordinary administrative papers. But in reality, this document transferred control of Princess Anne's charitable funds and inheritance, including those granted by Queen Elizabeth II and backed by the sovereign grant, directly into Camilla's hands. For Anne, it wasn't just about money. It was her career, her personal legacy, the medical, educational, and charitable projects she had painstakingly built over decades. And if Camilla succeeded, she would not only take the money, but also strip away the identity and role of a loyal, quiet, and dedicated royal princess. Princess Anne had firmly insisted that securing her financial safety was not only her right, but also the king's sacred duty. With a husband burdened by inner torment and fear, he had no choice but to yield. It was not just Sir Timothy's suspicions that exposed Camilla's dark secret, but the courage of a seemingly insignificant man, Edward Thompson, a low-level staff member at Clarence House. Edward had quietly witnessed countless whispers, threats, and shadowy schemes surrounding Camilla's private affairs for years. During that time, he chose silence out of fear of severe consequences. But when he heard Camilla threaten the king's personal doctor with words sharp as a blade, he knew he could no longer stay quiet. With trembling courage, Edward secretly recorded the conversation on his phone, hiding it in his coat pocket as his heart pounded with every beat. That small act of bravery transformed Edward from a silent observer into the keeper of the key to the survival of the entire monarchy. When Sir Timothy received the recording, he felt a cold punch to his heart, later confessing to close friends, "This is no longer rumor or suspicion, but undeniable proof that Camilla's ambition has crossed the line, possibly even into criminal behavior." For Sir Timothy, discovering this truth was a heavy burden, but also an unshakable mission. He understood that holding this truth meant possessing the power to either break or save the kingdom. The issue was no longer just about King Charles's health or Princess Anne's finances, but the very soul and honor of an entire realm that millions around the world still revered. Despite the weight of guilt and responsibility pressing on his shoulders, Sir Timothy knew this was only the beginning. If Camilla was bold enough to manipulate the doctors and coerce the king himself, no one knew what else she might be capable of. Unable to delay any longer, he resolved to reveal the whole truth to the king. For Sir Timothy, uncovering this truth was a heavy burden, but also an unavoidable mission. He understood that holding this secret meant possessing the power to either break or save the dynasty. The issue was no longer just King Charles's health or Princess Anne's finances. It was the very soul and honor of a monarchy revered by millions worldwide. Despite the weight of guilt and responsibility on his shoulders, Sir Timothy knew this was only the beginning. If Camilla was bold enough to manipulate doctors and coerce the king himself, no one could predict what else she might do. Without hesitation, he decided to reveal the whole truth to the king. When the truth reached King Charles, it wasn't a single blow, but a series of violent waves crashing over his frail body. His heart shattered not only from the betrayal, but also from his own blindness. For more than 3 decades, Charles had steadfastly defended and proven his love for Camilla before family church and the public. He had defied public opposition to keep her close, insisting that their love was genuine and unshakable. Memories flooded Charles's mind, images of his late mother, Queen Elizabeth II, who had always shown clear caution whenever Camilla's name was mentioned. From the wedding day, when the Queen avoided taking photos with the newlyweds, she had only ever accepted Camilla reluctantly. At the time, Charles thought it was just the conservative view of an old generation, but now that judgment felt like a forewarning. Perhaps the Queen had seen it all along, that Camilla was not truly his partner, but a schemer. Charles recalled the long days lying in his hospital bed, exhausted from chemotherapy. He remembered the times Camilla sat beside him holding his hand, whispering words of comfort. But how many of those were lies? How many of those gentle touches were just a performance to hide ambition? This realization dug deep into his heart, turning him from a man standing strong into an empty shell. Not only was his body weakening, but his soul was fracturing as he recognized that the partner he had trusted for so many years was actually the mastermind behind a dark conspiracy. Yet what troubled him most wasn't the personal pain, but the fear of the royal family's reaction, his children, his sister, and his advisors. They had sacrificed so much for him, always standing by his side. Now, because of his choice, they had to endure the shame of scandal. For a man who had spent his entire life preparing to become king, the crown felt heavier than ever before. And for the first time in his reign, Charles wondered if he still had the strength and authority to continue wearing that crown. The heir's reaction. Prince William. When the video recording of Camilla's threats was played in front of Prince William, his reaction was immediate and intense, usually a model of calm composure that calm shattered completely. His face turned pale, then flushed red with uncontrollable anger. For William, this was not just an ordinary scandal, but a slow assassination, a ruthless plot to poison his father through cruel schemes to seize power. That anger transformed into unshakable determination. Rising above the initial shock, William quickly stepped up to take control of the situation with the assuredness of a natural-born leader. He made it clear that this was no longer a private family matter, but had become a legal crisis that demanded swift and decisive action. While William reacted fiercely, Princess Anne, known for her strong will and unshakable calm, broke down. Her tears were not from weakness, but from the burning pain and deep sorrow of a sister witnessing her beloved brother being cruelly manipulated and harmed. Princess Anne painfully recalled their late mother's final admonitions about her financial independence. Queen Elizabeth II had always been meticulous in ensuring that the charitable funds and assets meant for her daughter were securely protected from any risk of exploitation. Now seeing Camilla attempting to seize those sacred legacies, Anne felt she could no longer bear it. Standing firmly beside Prince William, Anne became a voice that no lawyer or advisor could replace. With a tone full of righteous anger, she clearly outlined the historical weight and profound emotional significance of their mother's will, while exposing the illegality and murky financial schemes orchestrated by Camilla. In the meeting room, the royal council, comprising senior advisors, top lawyers, and a few trusted friends of Queen Elizabeth, listened quietly. 3 tense hours passed as they debated vigorously over the legal and political consequences of the evidence. Could the truth be made public? Would exposing Camilla shatter the already fragile image of the monarchy in the modern world? Yet no doubt remained. Even the most cautious advisors admitted that if Camilla's conspiracy continued, it would not only destroy King Charles but also threaten to overturn the entire crown. One by one, hesitant voices gradually fell silent. And when the session ended, everyone reached a consensus. Camilla would be stripped of all executive powers and financial control. All charitable funds and assets that she tried to seize would be returned to Princess Anne and placed under the joint supervision of Anne and William. From now on, Camilla's role would be nothing more than an empty shell. She would only be the queen consort in name, without any real power. The council also made one final, equally important decision. This scandal must never be allowed to leak to the public. The secret that the queen consort had conspired against the king had to be kept under wraps because if it got out, people would start doubting the king's health and capability. Everything had been arranged smoothly, except Camilla had no idea how her life was about to change. When the news that her secret had been exposed reached Camilla, people expected her to be scared, remorseful, or at least pretend to be. But no. The walls of Clarence's house shook with her furious screams. Camilla paced the room like a cornered beast, hands trembling, face twisted with rage. She had spent her entire life climbing to the pinnacle of the monarchy, standing at the center of power. The thought that it could all be swept away in a single moment was unbearable to her. In a panic, Camilla made a reckless decision, revealing the depth of her fear. She summoned a close aide and coldly ordered eliminate Sir Timothy Laurence. She blamed him entirely, accusing him of being overly curious, digging and exposing the secrets she had deliberately kept hidden. The assassination plot fails and tensions escalate. However, the assassination plot never succeeded. The plot was discovered and stopped before Sir Timothy's life was ever threatened. This event only reinforced the council's belief that Camilla was dangerous and mentally unstable. The news of the failure quickly reached her ears, causing Camilla's state of mind to spiral further into chaos. The palace, once the stage for her sophisticated manipulations, had now become a suffocating prison where every glance felt like a threat. She paced endlessly through the corridors, her mind tangled with impossible scenarios. She thought of ways to regain her position of power and silence her enemies. But every idea collapsed into the same conclusion: she had failed. But Camilla had no idea that the cruelest fate was yet to come. A simple letter sealed with the Royal Council's emblem was delivered to her. That seal signaled a serious message. With trembling hands, Camilla tore open the envelope and began to read. The merciless words, written in the cold language of law and order, clearly stated her executive powers were completely revoked. Her influence and authority would be stripped away. She would retain only the ceremonial title of Queen Consort, with no rights or power beyond a mere formality. Her eyes gradually dimmed, her face turning pale as she read each line. Those who witnessed it later recalled seeing her sit silently clutching the paper until it was torn and tattered. She had fought her entire life to be recognized as Charles's official partner, to reach the position she believed was her destined right. Now all of that had vanished. The letter slipped from her hands onto the floor. For a long while she just sat there, staring blankly into space. Then unusual tears began to fall. She wept not for Charles, nor for the family that had been shattered, but for herself and the dream that had died. But now everything had slipped away. The letter fell from her hands onto the floor. For a long time, she just sat there staring into space. Then unusual tears began to fall. She cried not for Charles or the family that had been torn apart, but for herself and the dream that had died. That night, standing before the mirror, the woman who looked back was no longer a powerful queen, but a 78-year-old woman with empty eyes and a wrinkled face. Camilla